As we say each time we begin one of our meetings here, is that we have waited for you your entire lives. And you will understand that today because nothing has happened accidentally in your lives. You've never been in the wrong place. You've never made a wrong turn. You're just going to come to understand it. You're just going to come to figure out and know your particular role in this world right now. And it is happening right now. That's why this particular intersection is occurring. This morning, we gave you a message and it is on our site. It is titled, You Will Know, You Will Come to Know More of Your Importance in the World. And that's what we're talking about because each of you are really important. And especially at this time, this is why we've made this so urgent for Roger. We kept wanting him to do this, but as we said earlier, he did not plan this until yesterday. Even though we kept telling him a long time ago, we need to talk on the 27th, we need to speak to everyone. He said, no, 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 which is why we have this particular message on the screen. You each have an evolutionary journey that you are on. It coincides with your world's evolution. And you are here now because you wanted to make a really big difference in the way that your world is going to unfold. And the way that you're going to do that is when you start unfolding yourself, when you start owning every aspect of yourself and why you are here. What you are experiencing in your world right now didn't happen yesterday. We gave you this a long time ago as well. But just last week, we gave you one message that most of you misunderstood. And we said that forecasting disaster typically causes it to manifest. And what that means is that your thoughts, your thinking, your spirit, your energy is the most powerful thing in the world. However, if you've moved through a lot of your life not understanding that, feeling insignificant, it's challenging for you to get a hold of that. And so then we send people like Roger to the earth to help you because he never got a control of it. He never owned it. He never did it. That's why we're showing you the dates here. Now, this came about because we're so clever. We arranged all of these things just to make this impact on each of you because it is really important for you to honor that part of you that's always been there and you know it. That's part of you that knew you were going to do something that was going to be meaningful and make a difference not only to your life and to the rest of the world. Well, this is the time that you intended to do that. And because we planned this on the 22nd because we knew how your world was going to look, even though many of you denied what was going on. But now you're going to come to this reckoning, but the reckoning is within you. Last night, we told Roger to go back and continue some of the other study that we directed him to do. What we're saying here, you each directed to do different ventures in your life or studies or whatever it might be. And sometimes you don't understand why you're doing it, but you're always doing it for a reason. And then sometimes it shows up. So we've had him look at your ancient history because you must understand that you are repeating things that you have gone through for eons. And we say eons because you can't have a concept of time because you've been oriented in linear time, meaning you think that one thing happens here and then the next and then the next. Everything is happening at once, but you cannot get a hold of that concept. So humans then develop linear time to track their progress. And progress, we mean evolving. You're moving from one part of yourself into another. And every step you take into the next part of who you are may sometimes be uncomfortable, may sometimes be challenging, and then you don't move. However, you decided to be here now because you knew this period in your world's history would cause you to be more motivated to own who you are. And we're going to help you do that. That's what's going on now. See, because when you look at the conflicts that you're having in your world, they're existing within you. That's why you're here, because you're going to pick a side. You will. You've done it every time. This is what we had Roger study. All the different times of your civilization has gone through changes, big, big changes where you evolve. And every time that evolution happens, you each take different sides. We told you this a long time ago that you will choose. And that side that you take is purposeful. It is purposeful for this time in your life. And we kept saying, you have been on all sides. You have done all of it. Whatever lives you have lived, you have done all of it. But this time, you know why you're here. Each of you is here now because you have this part of you, this loving, benevolent part that has been stifled to a degree until now, because you were waiting for this period so you could let it come through. Again, why we're showing you the dream. It is the dream that each of you have had in your individual ways. And every situation in which you have found yourself is giving you the opportunity to own who you came to be. There is not one of you here who is less important than another. We have been screaming this one forever, because now it becomes more important for you to own that, because you are people who came to be loving. You came to offer light. You know that. You've seen the places that you've been. You've seen the things that you've been attracted to. You've seen the people that you've been attracted to. You would not have come to Roger unless that was true. No one comes into his experience unless that's what they're up to. You each have done that. Now, we will say, you may not accept that. He didn't. We told you his journey back in 1987, where we told him then, this is where you're meant to go. He said, no, I'm not ready yet. Nope, not ready yet. And he had a lot of judgment for years and years and years until now. See, because now it makes more sense. Now he knows this part, this time is really critical. This is really a pivotal moment in your world's history. Many of you do not understand that, but it is true. But there are some here who do have felt that. You know it. You've seen things going on in your world now that you know have not occurred in more than 100 years. Well, we told Roger, no, it's more than that. It's actually hundreds of years and centuries. But then we took him back to several centuries ago, several thousand years ago, before any of you have any memory, but those he saw. All of those things that were playing out there still happening in your world today. But you are the people who came to make a change. You are the people who decided we're going to do something different. When we gave you the message, forecasting disaster, that was due to the all the news that was going on about what was going to happen in Afghanistan. We did talk about that specifically. And the next day, everyone went to the news. Everybody saw what was happening. Oh, wow, how terrible this is. This is all happening now. Well, you did that a long time ago. You forecasted that centuries ago. And we're saying you because you are a part of everything that has gone on in your world. You're eternal beings and you're all equal. And your eternal spirits have always been here. You've just been connected in different ways. But this time, you know that you're here to create something that's going to help not only you or your family and your friends, but more people. And each of you can do that if you decide to own who you are. You are as valuable as any other person in the world. But now your value is going to become more. You see, because what happens is every evolution that you have in your society, in your world, you see the differences after you come out of it. You become better. You become more aligned. You become more inclusive. You accept people more. You can see it. And if you were to take the time to really study your history, which we had Roger do, which he never wanted to do before, but we said we needed to prepare you for this time in your evolutionary journey. And part of his evolutionary journey was not holding himself back. And then we prepared him for that as well. And we did that for all of you. We did this for all of you. We had him sit the other night and write as us, you see, because that's the thing that was always strange to him. You know how you hear the voices in your head? Oh, wait a minute. Am I supposed to do that? Am I the person who's doing that? Yes, you are. That's why you're hearing it. And you know you're hearing it because it doesn't feel bad. It's just your resistance. You push it away. He's done that, but he also knows now that that was purposeful for him. He had a lot of judgment about doing it before, but now he knows, this is great because now I know who I am. And my only mission in the world is to help everyone else come to know who they are, because the feeling that you gain from that is it's beyond compare. And love is so much stronger, brighter, more powerful than any darkness anyone could see. And so the more of you come together, this is why we urged him to do these groups. The more of you come together, you create more of that light, and that changes your world. You will change, you'll also change your planet. Your global warming will go away. It will absolutely go away, but it won't do it unless you start to move. You are each that responsible, meaning that when you start to love yourself, you're going to care about other things. You're going to care about more people. You'll care about your earth. You'll start making different choices. That what you each will do. Not everyone will do that, and you know it. But see, now here you are, and now you have to fulfill all of it. So the other part of it is you're going to see, as we've talked about before, you're going to see everyone who disagrees with what you're doing. Except you know what you're doing, and you have to do that now. So what we did was we had Roger sit down and write this really long, what he felt was a manifesto, as we said this morning, and he sent it to everyone. Sent it to all his family and friends. Well, what he did, he didn't want a response. He didn't want to know anything. He just sent it. He says, this is who I am. And that's what each of you are doing now. And that's why we did that. So he could become more present, more clear for you, so that you become encouraged, because you're going to do that for other folks. Each of you here is to make an example for all of those who are coming behind you. That's what is happening. You are each here on an evolutionary journey that's also generational. And that generational change that you're all moving through is helping to heal something from the past, from the centuries. It's all of that. You don't need to know what that is, but you do know what you've had in front of you that you have not been willing to embrace, that you have not been willing to accept about who you are, that you have not felt all of your power, that you have thought that other people had it all. This is something that your society does all the time, and we've told you that before. On our last session, we had a message that we wanted you to see, which was called Money, Love, Power, and Control. Those are the things that your society always moves through. Every human will experience that when they come into the earth, and they will take a chance. They will make a choice. Where am I going to go this time? Am I going to be more concerned about money and physical things? And that's valuable. In life, that is valuable. Or is my interest going to be more about other people and taking care of them? And we know that not everyone does that. But those of you who do, this is the time where you meant to have that come about, because it fulfills who you are. And that's what you have known as well. The one thing that we have come to now is that it's too important in the history, in this time in your world, for you to judge yourself, for you to have any kind of judgment on yourselves at all, because that diminishes your light when you do that. And so we have made this point with Roger. Okay, every time you hear it with somebody, don't let them do it, because it diminishes the light for everybody. You have never done anything wrong. None of your mistakes meant anything. You were just learning what you were meant to do now. Everything is a progression. And so last night, we're going to do a little bit more for you. We'll play this later, but Roger was sitting on, you think things are accidental, and they're not, and we're going to explain a little bit more. Last night, he was sitting on his sofa, as we mentioned in our writing this morning, and he had his iPad there, and he happened to, accidentally, he thinks things are happening accidentally, like some of you do. They're never happening that way. He opened up a song that he had forgotten about, that he and a partner, his friend, wrote several years ago. Now, let's tell you, when the song was first presented to him, it was called The Alchemist. And Roger thought, well, that's not quite the right title, because I'm not sure that people will understand that. And so we said to him, because we came in at that point, we do this all the time, we said, it's The Optimist, because that's what you're going to need later. See, we can project what's happening in your world, and we can tell him what's going on and where you need to be. You each have that. Each of you has been guided that way. You just didn't know that. And so he's explaining this because he wants you to understand what his journey was, so you start accepting yours, and you will start believing who you are. That's really what we want. No matter what you're going through right now, no matter what you're experiencing, it is something that you wanted to, because it was going to cause you to evolve. It may be challenging, it may be difficult. We understand, because Roger's had tons of that. We told him also, we want, when he agreed to start doing this, we must tell you this, because this is nothing he ever wanted to do. He never wanted to be here doing this. Well, he did. He just wouldn't admit it. Just like you haven't done that. Oh, I can't admit I'm going to do that. But now he knows that he can, and he knows that the way that he's going to make a difference is the more of you he can finally convince to own how wonderful and magnificent and all the talents that you have, then he feels great. If we could, again, we mentioned this last time, we could go on and on about all the trauma that he's experienced in his life, all the difficulties, all the challenges, all of that. We could tell you all of that, except he knows now that it was okay. That's the value that you bring to anything. When you go through something that's challenging or difficult, you experience it, you come out of it, you feel better. That stuff doesn't mean as much to you, and then you give it back to others, and that is how your world evolves. Now, one of the things, we'll tell you this because some of you might do this, Roger doesn't, he knows that we're always speaking through him. When he's thinking he's doing something, it's always us jumping in and saying something, and that used to be quite unnerving to him until now he's accepted it. He will be speaking to one of you and you will say something, and many of you have experienced that. He will be speaking to one of you, you'll say something, and we'll say to him, oh, we told you about that. Go and find this message and give it to them. And then we do it and you read it and you go, wow. All of that is to show you that you've never been in the wrong place. You're not here accidentally. None of you who will hear this later, because many people will hear this later, you're not hearing it at an accidental time in your life. It's just that you will come to understand why. You each have this great purpose in this world. And when you begin to understand that, everything is going to change. Every civilization, as we've explained, you come in to take a particular role. Now, it's difficult for Roger to explain this, but let's do this. See, you have human classifications. You will call things good and bad, evil, right, wrong, all of that, but all of them are necessary. You see, all of them are necessary because you can't evolve without them. And there have been many different leaders who will call them things like a conflict, contrast, all of those things. It's all the same thing. They're differences. But what you're meant to do is bring your differences together, because when you bring your differences together, you heal. You heal yourself and you heal your world. And so when you come to understand how important you are, then you will stop judging yourself. You will start to, oh, wait a minute, I can go and do this now. Because that's what needs to happen at this time. Roger never understood why we made these last talks that we were giving so urgent. And we gave you a message many weeks ago, where we said the world that you desire to see is not guaranteed. And that's what's happening right now, which is why we had him see a lot of history, because some of your societies have gone away because some of you did not act in terms of ownership. Some of you did not decide that you were going to own what was the best part of you and give that to the world. And that's when things went away. That's when you might have lost what you thought you were going to gain. And you're each going through that in different ways in your lives, but this is purposeful. The other day, we planned something else. After Roger did, and we're saying all of this because we really want you to get this, because after we had him sit down and write his manifesto, as we said, right after that, he discovered that one of his YouTube channels was gone. It was deleted. All the content, everything was deleted. Now, and people were looking at this and saying, oh, wow, this is a horrible thing. How could this have happened? Roger knew why it happened. He takes responsibility. He knows his things that he could have done that could have prevented that. He didn't do it. He looked at it. And some of you do this. You look at things and then you don't do it. This is why we told you to look at Flora, which we'll speak about. We said that a long time ago, and this is what this is what we meant. We tie things together in odd ways, but it makes it more impactful for you. You see, but what you're doing now is putting all these things together, is what we're saying. So every civilization, you come in and you take a role, and you say, I'm going to take this thing. I'm going to be on this side now. And then you come back and you say, I'm going to be on that side now. But then you'll start to judge the other side heavily. You will. And that's what's coming up now. And we know it because you're going to see it today. You're going to see so many things today. You already have, that you're going to judge. And you know that your role here this time was to offer something different, was to bring something different into the world. And so you're going to look at them and you're going to offer understanding, because you're going to know that they don't completely understand where their journey is, but you are this time. This time on this journey, you're more aware than some of the others who are just being here as an example for you. That's a great way for us to say it. They're just here as an example for you, to encourage you to own what is within you. That's all that is there. There was a book, and we told you this before, about the 3 magic words. Last time we talked about it, we didn't give you the ending, but now we're going to, because it's more important. Again, we're putting the urgency on you owning yourself. No matter what you're going through, your fear, all of that doesn't mean anything. This does, though. And so in this book, this was in 1979 that he read this book. U.S. Anderson, you should read it. We'll give you that too. We give props to whatever is out there that we think will help you all come to own who you are a little bit more. But in that book, the instruction was very clear. Do not go to the end to find the 3 magic words. Don't do that. And so Roger's very diligent. He usually follows instructions. And so he waited. He read the entire book. He waited, and he was so anxious to get to the end. And he wanted to know what it was. Again, this was 1979. And he read it, and he got to the end. And then he said, oh, no. Because the 3 magic words were, you are God. And we need each of you to come to understand that now. There's no one who has been put on this earth who is more powerful than you, who has more than you. It's just never happened. The one thing we want to talk about too, and we started this last time, you think that your government is controlling you. We've spoken about this many times. First of all, you can't be controlled, because where you live is in your brain. It's living in your thoughts. That's where you live. That's where you experience everything in your consciousness. Your body doesn't stay here. Your consciousness is always here. So that's where your real freedom is to begin with. However, the other part of that is you are the government. You put those people there. And if you have enough power, if you don't want them there, then why don't you change it? And there's something that's going on now. We talked about denial in some of our previous messages. We've given you many of them. But denial is the thing that really holds you back, because you won't look at what happened before, just as we said, which is why Roger is owning what he's done. After that thing happened with his YouTube, he said, no, I'm owning this. I'm going to talk about it. It's my mistake. I didn't do this. I could have done something better. Each of you has that. So, but what's going on now in your world is there's a lot of denial going on. Denial and blame. Now, this is how they work. You will use blame to say this person caused it or that person caused it, and that's why I'm feeling that way. So then you can keep practicing denial, which means that you don't own how powerful you are. It's a really great game. But eventually you get tired of playing it. And your world and your society gets tired of playing it as well. And that's what's going on now. Except this is a very critical point for each of you. Now, we did it on this day, and we called it the full moon because it is a powerful one. None of these things are happening accidentally. That you would have the construction, the configuration of the planets is exactly the way they are now to produce this kind of energy that would cause you each to wake up to who you are. And all the disasters that you're seeing in the world are serving the same purpose. And you could change it if you chose to. Your weather is not happening by itself. It just isn't. And at some point, you will start to understand that and believe it. But again, the way that you're going to do it doesn't mean you have to go out and be this environmentalist and do all of that. But what you do have to do is start to love yourself. That's what you have to do. Above all else. See, because when you love yourself, you will make different choices. You will do different things. You will bring a different energy into the world. Energy is all that's creating your world. When you bring that energy into the world, it's everybody picks up on it. It just grows. It becomes exponential. It just grows exponentially. That's what happens. And we'll give you another one. This morning, you have to stop holding yourself back from where you're supposed to go. That's the other thing we want to say. This morning, Roger received an email, and they asked him, it was the group that he is in, and they asked, do you want to do these talks every day, every week? Every week. Look, you want to do them every week? And Roger said, I don't know. I don't know. Let me wait. Let me see. I'll know after today. And we felt, no, wait a minute, this is the most fun you've ever had. So why would you not do them? And you're going to make the biggest difference if you can give this to other people. Why wouldn't you do them? So he's rethinking all of that. He will make a new decision on that, because you each need to understand you get more. There's a momentum that you build within your life, and you're doing it yourself. You're doing it every single moment, every thought you're doing. Now, what happens is there's another aspect to this, which we're going to speak on, and that is you're not just doing it for yourself. So some of you may have been experiencing some really challenging times beyond what you see happening in your world, and you wonder why. The reason is you decided in this life that you were going to accept some challenges that your ancestors had, that you're going to help move through those. Now it's your time to start to change those. That's what you're doing. This is why, again, we wanted you to see that this has been going on for centuries, thousands and thousands of years. And each time you get a little better. When we say we, we're talking about, when we say you, we're talking about your collective world, your humanity, all of it. And there are certain things that would give you each so much more comfort and peace. And that is to study a little bit more, because you have the resources, you have the technology to be able to do that. And so when you start to look and find the real information that does exist, there's some that's, you know the difference, but there's some information that does exist. And we're talking about your history. We're not talking about your opinions or any of that. We're talking about your history. Because if you look at your history, you're going to study so much, the history of your world, your personal history, and the history of your world. And when you examine it, you can see very clear patterns of progression. You're in one now. This is just really big. And so we want you to understand that you chose to be here at this time in your world's history because you knew this was going to be a big shift and you wanted to be a part of it. No matter how challenging it was for you, you wanted to do that, and you will. You absolutely will. There's so many things that we have given you over the years that only are making sense now. Now, we're saying this because we know some of you have read our stuff. Some of you may not have seen our messages for years and years and years. However, if you were to go back, you would see that everything that we gave was leading to this place, was leading to this moment. The first part will tell you this too, because will help you each in understanding your journey, because you've been moving through things your entire life. You have, and every time you get better. You're evolving until you stop, until you choose not to. You do have that choice because you have free will, which again, we've given you many of those, more so to Roger many, many years ago. You have free will. You come into the world and you have potential. You can do anything, but then you also have free will to choose. And so many times you have chosen not to move ahead. You've chosen not to believe yourself. That's just a choice. But then the beauty of that is you can now choose something different. You can choose to believe all that stuff that people have told you about your potential and who you are and what a magnificent being you are. Now it's time for you to come alive with that. Now, what we're saying is that there is a evolution that happens in your world. You're in it, but you have a personal one, but then there's the world's evolution. Okay. And so you come together, you come in at a specific time to be a part of what is happening in your world. So you each chose this time. And we really want you to understand this one because it's important. This is why we've been trying to really get you to get in there and accept yourself. This is a pivotal moment. You can see it. You see what's happening. And sometimes you get a little afraid of it. We are not. Because we know that if you step up, it can change. It's painful for us to see some of the opinions and that you each will accept about the disaster that is coming, rather than saying, let me do something about it. And what you do about it, it never has to be some big thing you have to go out and change. It is only what is within you, your individual life, what you have been given. You're supposed to make that brilliant. You're supposed to own every aspect of who you are. And you're supposed to love all of that, even your mistakes. See, because your mistakes taught you everything. Your failures that you thought they were failures, they never were. But if you had them, If you think that, if you classified them that way, they were gifts that were given to you to transform so that you could help yourself evolve and that of the world. That is what is happening now. We will give you something else. Roger never understood all of this, and we only gave him this bit of history. We direct him to go and study certain things, but the conflict in Israel, for instance, if you were to understand that history and how long that has gone on, and the different sides that have moved back and forth, you would understand what's happening in your world right now. It's just different forms, but that's what's happening in your, and it's not just in certain, it's in every country because you're humans, and so your energies are connected globally. It's connected to everyone. So the changes that you're seeing, which you can't understand sometimes, are occurring everywhere. And we took Roger back. We're going to give you all of this. We took Roger back to your in your planet, your pandemic of 1918. And this was the one that no one figured out, that nobody could get to. Because you see, there was a virus then too. There was the flu, and everybody was dying. And nobody knew what was happening. But they started figuring things out, which you're doing now too. They started figuring things out and placing people and said, okay, wait a minute, we know how this transmutes and how that happens. But then what they started discovering, which no one talks about very much. No one talks about it very much, because what they discovered was that this virus was showing up in parts of the world that didn't have any connection with the places where the virus existed. How did that happen? It's because you were connected energetically. As humans, you're connected energetically. You just don't know how powerful you are. You can transmit anything. Telepathically, you can transmit absolutely anything, except now it becomes more important for you to transmit what you want. That's what we're doing now. And that's why we want you each to come together and just own who you are and just bring this portion of yourself into the world, because no matter what you think, you did plan this. You plan to be here right now. You plan to make all of your connections. You just doubt them. We're going to talk about something else, because this is so perfect, because Faisal is here today. So when Faisal showed up, Faisal is Roger's assistant. We're going to talk about this, because when he showed up, Roger doubted it. He goes, wait a minute, I've had trouble before. People don't want to give to me. I've given to everyone. See, we're saying this because many of you here have had this. I've given to everyone. Nobody's going to come and give anything to me. And so then when it started happening, and Faisal just saying, what can I do? How can I help? What can I do? Roger's going, no, that doesn't fit my narrative about myself. That can't be right. See, that's what each of you have done. You haven't accepted your importance, which is why, again, we wrote the message this morning. Well, we gave him the message this morning, but also we want you to understand you can't judge yourself about that. You have to become aware. See, because you're always going to do that. You are never in a place where you are finished. You are never in a place where you are complete, because you're eternal beings. So how could that be? So every step along the way of your evolutionary journey is you moving into a greater portion of yourself and becoming that great, magnificent being. And then you might believe the 3 magic words at some point. That could happen. And the more of you who do, that changes your world. We must get you to understand that. Now, again, we have to make this point, because it may sound like we know that you're going to make choices, because you're going to see it in your world. It's not going to be possible. We really want you to understand this. You're going to see things going on in your world, especially in the next few days, next few months. You will see this. Okay, you're going to see things happening in your world that you are going to just think everything's going crazy. You're going to hate it. You're going to hate the people. All of that's going to come up. And that is your signal at that moment to say, oh, now I'm going to remember who I am. I'm going to see beyond all the noise. And that's what we mean literally. See beyond the noise. You can. And each of you knows that you have that ability. You felt it in moments, little moments in your life. Oh, yeah. And you've done certain things. Oh, we'll also say, because you know, you are the people who, out of the blue, folks are coming up to you and asking you for advice. You know that. You felt it. And then you thought, why are they asking me? Because you came in with a knowingness. You came in with the wisdom. You came in with so much that you were going to offer the world. Now, some of you may have thought that was over, but that's never true either, because you're doing it now. And every form in which you're doing that is important. Every single one. There's so many things happening in your world currently that many of you have missed, which we spoke on last time, because there are many different technologies and information and resources that are being developed that were never seen before because you had to stay at home. That's how they came about. You had to stay at home. And then you came into yourself. Now you make a choice in that. Sometimes it becomes very challenging for you to be with yourself. Really challenging, because that's that place where you come into, oh, what am I going to do if I don't have all the distractions? If I don't have all this other stuff to do, then who am I? We told you, but we'll keep telling you because it takes a while for you to accept that. We gave Roger a program that he has created, didn't know where it came from, how he did it, rather. He just knew that we were doing it because he looks at it and he goes, wow, I couldn't have possibly written that. Again, that's the disconnect that many of you have with the gifts and the talents that you have, which is why we keep bringing this up. But there comes a time in your life where it starts to make more sense to you. And then you find yourself here. We're saying that because we know that you heard some things that are not accidental, that you're hearing some stuff that, oh yeah, I remember. That's what it is. We told Roger a long time ago, and we're telling you now, you will remember who you are. You will. As you move through your life, you will remember who you are. Now, some of you have lost people during this period of time, and some of you have had some questions about that. Why did they have to go? Why did that have to happen? And we will tell you the main reason is that so you become more compassionate, so you become more empathetic. That's why. And these people decided we're going to sacrifice that because we want you to become more compassionate. That may not make sense to you, but you each make choices like that before you come in. You will agree to what roles you want to play. And those roles sometimes will serve the greater good or just serve yourself at that time. Those are the choices that you make, which is why we gave you the last message: money, love, power, and control. That is what's happening in your world right now. And that's why it's a little challenging for each of you to figure that out, because you've used money to control things forever. And you have thought that power was going to make you happy. And so you tried to hang on to it as much as you could. And in that effort, you would kill other people to hang on to your power. But now you're not doing that. We're saying this purposely because we want you to understand you've taken both sides. But this time you have to own the one that you've decided to live now. And that is this benevolent being. And if you remove the judgment that you've had on yourself for all of the things that have happened in your life until now, you will start to become those people. That's exactly what's happening. And we just want to say this again, because we don't do, let's explain this. Roger will he gets a little, it bothers him when people say, oh, you're psychic. It's not that. It is not that. He has an intuitive ability you've been developing, comes through us. We've been working on this forever and forever. But the other part of it, it's just that it's logical, which each of you have that ability. You know the choices that you make and the results that they would produce. But that, again, becomes the denial that each of you use to block off you think, but it's not working, to block off your magnificence. That's what goes on. But again, this time, you're going to let go of that, because we can't even begin to tell you how momentous this time in your world is, how critical, how crucial it is. And you have to come together and just love yourself. Because when you do that, you're going to love the other people. You're going to start seeing everything in a little different way. Now, we're saying this now because that it may look a little different for a while, but that's okay. We're going to keep doing this to keep informing you of what is actually occurring, because you're making great changes. You are shifting your planetary configuration right now, just by being here, just by being on the earth. Each of you are that important. And you become more so when you understand it and when you come together. And that is the current trajectory of your world right now. There are going to be groups of you coming together who will create this kind of momentum that will cause your world to shift in a whole new way. And it's going to be the one you want. But as we said, it's not guaranteed, meaning that you have to do something. And that what you're going to do is start to decide, oh, wait a minute, I've got something within. And I can see all of these things, every situation in my life, I can see how they were forming me. Now, we're saying this because we'll take, as we go on with these talks in the future, we'll continue on with a bit of this, but we have so many messages that we could refer to that will tell you about your journey. One was which was so much, and all of you would really receive so much value from this, and it was called, You Were Being Prepared. We want each of you to think of that. You were being prepared. Because if you haven't done that thing that you thought you were supposed to do or felt or whatever it might have been, you were being prepared. But we will say the preparation that you were doing was meant to be utilized during this time in your life. That's what's happening. And many of you have felt that. You have felt this questioning. There's someone here we know, and we're speaking right to you because you've had so many questions about this and you doubted yourself and you judged it, but no. And we said to you, no, you're in the right place. And some of you have had that in different ways. But there is no difference. And if you look at our messages again, you will see one of the themes that we gave you all a long time ago, there's no hierarchy of souls. Do you understand that? Souls. We're not talking about people, we're talking about souls. I mean, you each come in with such magnificent gifts that are connected to so much. But you come in and then you start comparing yourselves to individuals so that you can make yourselves a little insignificant and less important. So now it's time to start doing that, because this is what you meant to do. You meant to move through that and come to this place of complete ownership of who you are. There's so many things. Again, let's talk about this. When we kept making the references to Florida, we did it for two reasons. And this one we know is hard for a lot of you, because you will see things going on there that you will judge as being horrible and they didn't have to happen. Yes, that's true. But judgment isn't supposed to happen either, because then you get, if you're judging, you're not gaining what you came to do. You're not accomplishing your goal. You came for understanding. Judgment and understanding are not the same thing. They're completely different. And that's the thing that each of you have had trouble within your own lives, you see, because you judged yourself because you didn't understand that there was something more. You didn't understand that you had more ability. You didn't understand any of that. And so then when you didn't live up to whatever imaginary goal or idea you had about yourself, then you start to judge yourself. And then what happens is you keep doing that over and over again. And before you know it, you're this worthless people. Not many of you have done that to that degree, but you know what we're talking about. But you are the people who are supposed to understand that so that you can help others come to acceptance of who they are. That's all that's going on now. And we've given you also, and we would advise any of you to go through our messages and find these things as we're referring to them. But if you were to go into search the word chaos, we really would like at some point each of you to go to our site, Any Advice for Today, and search the word chaos and read all the messages that are there. And you will see how long we've talked about this. You will create chaos. You create it in your lives, and then that translates into your world until you do something, until you get motivated, until you move enough to do something to change things and to change that trajectory to have your life and the world go in a new way. That's what's happening. And it's not going to go away. It's not going to completely go away. Well, the form that you want may go away if you don't act. That could happen. That could happen. There have been many times in your civilizations where certain peoples have disappeared. It is true. You can go back and study history. That has happened. And you're at a juncture where you could cause that again if you kept going in the direction that you were. But we're not doing that. We've decided we're going to change course. We're going to come together and we're going to offer something that's going to make people come to understand why they're here, what they're meant to do. And more so than anything else, it is nothing else than loving yourselves and getting rid of the judgment, because you are needed now. We've given you many messages in the past where the world needs you now. None of you knew what we were talking about. This is it. This is what we're talking about. This is the time where you were spent to, your magnificence was supposed to come through and light up the world. We want to keep using that light, because that's what you each are in your own way, in your own magnificent way. Let's say this, everything that you're doing, your jobs are so important. Doesn't matter what it is. It's so important because your essence is going into it. Your essence is causing it to become something. Your essence will change the world. We told you who you were. You could do all of that. But sometimes, depending on what you have in your evolutionary DNA, let's talk about that, because you have that as well, which we spoke in the last conversation, where if you were to study your DNA, you would see all the little threads that you have connected to all the other places in the world. You do have that. And so because of it, you have energetic things that are coming to you. You have no memory of it. You see, but the Crusades, as we spoke of before, you could have had places there that you were connected to, and you're still feeling that now. You're still working with that, we should say, working with that. But whatever it is that you have, it is for your evolution and that of the world. There is no separation in that. One of the weirdest concepts, and we're going to say this because we really need you to hear it, because when Roger first heard it, it was so challenging and difficult for him. But if we said, it's like Hitler went to heaven, that was a reference that he heard, and it's so shocking. How could that have happened? Well, because then when you understand that you each serve a purpose, and that purpose is to cause humanity to evolve. First of all, we don't believe in the heaven or hell thing. Those are just terms that some humans use, but you can understand that when we use it. And that is what we want you to see now, because you're going to look at people, and you've done it. You've looked at your leaders. It's happening now. It's happening, going to happen big time now. But you're going to crucify your leaders because they did all of this to you, instead of you understanding that you are the leaders. That's why we have that on the post there. You are the leaders. And anything that you see out in your world, you could change if you chose to. You could do it. You have that ability. And so to think that somebody has some power over you or is controlling you is totally ludicrous. You possess as much power as every single person. There's not more or less given to anyone. You just use it in different ways and at different times and at different lifetimes. We want to say that because, again, we know why you are here now. And you know why you are here now. You may not have accepted it all. You may not have believed it, but you do know why you're here. You felt that part of you internally that says, I know that I'm supposed to do something. I know I'm supposed to make a difference. Why isn't it happening? Why is no one seeing me? Why is that not occurring yet? It is now. And it's going to start to be shown to you more and more. The other thing that will happen, and we've given Roger so many of these, as we said, this song that we will play for you later, because how could he have known that the words of this song would be appropriate for today? And he just found it last night. He just discovered it last night. And then what we did to make this even, we do things and we get him to pay attention to it and to see them, just like you do. You're going to start noticing these things. So he went into he came home and he saw on his Facebook post there was a message from someone about that particular song that he just put up today. And they said, we needed that today. How could Roger have known that? We're saying these things because you each doubt yourself so much. You doubt the guidance that you've been given. Roger did. That's why he knows that his life mission now, because of the life he's lived, he knows that he is here to help move things forward by causing each of you to believe in yourselves a lot more. Whatever it is that you're doing, that's all he knows, is that he wants you to believe in that because he knows it's valuable. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And we can say that to this group because we know that the things that you are doing are meant to help others, are meant to bring more love into the world, are meant to change things in a different way. Again, your weather is a direct result of you not loving yourselves. Yeah, you're that powerful. Now, there will be several things coming up in your world in the next several months, which will think you might tend to think that things are going wrong. They're going haywire. They're not. That's why we want you to read the messages on chaos. If you read them, you will understand. You do this all the time in your world. You've done it over and over again. You create great conflicts. This is a big one though. This is a big shift, but you've also done other shifts in your civilizations. You have no memory of that, and you wouldn't have any understanding of it unless you were a serious a scholar of history. You wouldn't have any of that information. But we're giving you bits and pieces because we incrementally give this to Roger. One other thing we want to address, because a friend said to Roger, and we explained it before, but we're going to do it again. In several of our messages, we will say we will reveal more later, and this goes on. And then the question was, well, why can't you tell us now? Because you don't understand it and you don't accept it. You have to have experiences that give you a little bit of validity, that give you a little bit of proof or something that causes you to move into more acceptance of who you are. And Roger has dedicated his entire life to bring you here, which is why we said we have waited for you your entire lives, because he has spent his entire life gaining this to be able to give it to you now, so that you will go on and make these great changes in the world, and he will feel that he's done his job, because you each have that job to do as well. And the only job that you have is to just embody every aspect of who you are. As nuts as you might think it is, as crazy, as ridiculous, as out of the blue, we want you to own that. Because see, now you're going to change something. This is why we took Roger back to your Einstein. See, because when you look at Einstein, there's these scholars that you've had, these scientists and these physicists and philosophers who come to this great understanding later in their lives. Why do you think that happens? Because there were certain things that they needed to live, experience, and experiment with and figure out, and then call this information into something that you could each understand. And then it causes your world to evolve in greater ways than you can ever imagine. We're going to say this because we know what you're going to see in the next several days, and it's going to look a little strange to you and a little frightening, but we're telling you that it's your opportunity. It's not going to feel that way, but it is. And we will encourage you. We'll keep going with you. We're going to keep doing this because, see, this is part of Roger's journey. He has to break through his withhold, which is why, again, the timing was right. And we had him write his manifesto that freed him to degrees that you can't even imagine. And you're each doing that now. And some of you will come away from today feeling a bit more free. A bit more understanding will come to you. This is why you go to all the things that you do. It's why you have been drawn to going to certain religious practices or spiritual practices or churches or certain groups or whatever it is. You weren't doing that accidentally. You were training yourself. You were being prepared. You were following your inclination, your intuition to go into those places. You may have questioned it, but it was always the right thing. It was always the right thing. And that's what you are now in this period of your lives. You're going to all come to understand that. You're going to come to see it. Because see, we're going to keep pointing it out. We did a little bit of it today, but we're going to keep doing more. We know that you got something. We know that that it hit you. Because again, as we've said, never in an accidental place. It's just not happening. And we're so passionate about this now because we know what's there. We know what could come if you do not own yourselves. Yeah, we make it a little urgent, but we can. Your world's not going to implode. It's not going to do that. However, it will be more challenging if you do not come into owning who you are and give the gifts that you have to the rest of the world. That is where we are at this point. Now, the title of this talk that we had today, this is why we met. It's your future of the world and you. See, because they're not separated. What you are creating in your life is going to be reflected in the world. And that's why we want you to own it, love it, and give it to them. Okay. We would like to take questions. We would like to discuss whatever comes up for you, whatever you heard that maybe was a little confusing or you didn't understand or you want a little more clarity.